Welcome to the Brewers Weekly Rundown Podcast, a production of the Flicksation Podcast Network.
Brewers down to their final out now. Now up to Christian Yelich. Here it is. Yelich sends one to right center and deep. Get up! Get up! Get out of here and gone for Yelich. He has tied the game with a booming home run. He got it all.
Hey everybody, what's happening? You've got the Brewers Weekly Rundown Podcast here. Welcome back. My name Eric Madsen. I'm here at Flicksation Studios, P City, Wisco, talking to you for just a minute before we get into the meat of the episode that was recorded a few days ago. Michael and Will Redman and I did an episode. We recorded it the day that the Brewers boycotted their game with the Reds. We'll talk a little bit more about things that came before that and led up to that. But I'm recording this Sunday morning after, let's just say, a wild Saturday night game here from Milwaukee. Got swept by the Reds in the two-game doubleheader, 6-1, 6-0. Brewers bats just pathetic in the doubleheader there. Pitching not much better, but offense continues to be inconsistent as hell. So yeah, that happened. Pittsburgh has come to town. We handled them pretty easily on Friday, scoring 9 runs, the offense coming alive for that one. And a pretty timely game here last night that probably should have ended worse, but the Brewers ended up taking the win anyway. Josh Hader, who had not given up still has not given up a hit this season, could not find his release point and walked 5+ batters last night. I don't remember if it's 5 exactly, maybe it was 6, but he came in with a 1-run lead, walked endless guys, ended up relinquishing the lead before in the bottom of the 9th, Eric Sogard came in and walked it off with a 2-run homer to save the game for the Brewers. But the amazing work thus far in 2020 from Josh Hader are not there last night. As like I said before, he just could not find his release point, throwing everything high, walking just endless guys. It was not good. Brewers did manage to take the first 2 from Pittsburgh here. We got 2 more as we play Sunday and Monday yet with them. So hopefully the Brewers can win this series and get back some ground they lost, getting swept by the Pirates last weekend and blowing both games of the doubleheader versus the Reds. So we're going to dig a little bit more into what happened before these last couple of days on the podcast. Once again, as I said, Michael, Will, and I are going to discuss what's gone on in the last couple of weeks for the Brewers. We'll throw it over to that discussion now. Before that, be sure to email the show with your thoughts on the Brewers Weekly Rundown or the Brewers themselves at brewersrundown@gmail.com, at Brewers Weekly over at Twitter and Instagram, and please follow us on Facebook. If you got a second, please give us a lofty star rating where you receive the Brewers Weekly Rundown podcast at the particular store of your choice. Give us a lofty star rating or a quick little review. Help other folks find the Brewers Weekly Rundown podcast. Thanks, everybody, for listening, and let's throw it to our conversation from Wednesday. Thanks for listening. Hey everybody, what's going on? You've got the Brewers Weekly Rundown podcast here, back from a couple weeks hiatus. Joined tonight by Mike Smith from Door County, Wisconsin. Mike, what's going on, man?
It's good to be back. It's been a while.
Also joining us from the D.C., not Door County, but Washington, D.C. area, Will Redmond. Will, welcome back.
Glad to be back here. It's been a little while, but definitely glad to be here again.
All right, so we are recording this on Wednesday, August 26th. This will probably come out a couple of days after that. So in baseball today, the Brewers game is postponed as they boycotted the game today in collaboration with the Reds, who they were supposed to play. And we will get into that a little more in depth at the end of the show. But here, at least for a while here, let's just talk about the Brewers and what's been going on for the last couple of weeks. As of today, the Brewers sit at 13-15. They are a couple of games out of second place in the, and this is all on winning percentage, obviously, because it is the Cardinals in second place right now. A number of games behind the Brewers as far as games played at this point. Cubs still atop the division at 18-11. It's been a very mixed bag for the Brewers the last couple of weeks. They did have a big bright spot in Chicago as they took 3 of 4 on the road from the Cubs, who were red hot at the time and had not lost a series at home. So something the Brewers definitely needed at the time. Been some pretty rocky roads pretty much besides the Cubs series. Lost 4 of 6 to the Twins in the splits there. Lost the series to the Reds and got swept in Pittsburgh over the weekend. Lowly Pittsburgh. The Brewers batting a combined percentage of 188 in the Pittsburgh series. The ERA, combined ERA of the team in that series, over 8.5. Not a good formula if you're going to try and win some games. Brewers in a stretch right now that is favorable to them record-wise. A lot of sub-500 teams here. They are on a 2-win streak as they have taken the first 2 at home against the Reds here. All kinds of crazy stuff happening in the last couple of weeks, Michael. But as you kind of look at what the Brewers have done the last couple of weeks with the offensive struggles, and what have you seen so far? What do you think of the Brewers the last couple of weeks, Mike?
The offense has been pretty brutal, but that's been pretty common across most of the baseball teams. Pitching is definitely winning early here, but I don't think Counsell's gotten super creative with the lineups. Maybe he's flipped who's leading off one game, but it's really hard to get a lineup or team going when almost everyone's batting at or below the Mendoza line, it seems like. The starting pitching started off pretty well, and then it got really, really, really rocky from there. The Lauer and Lindblom experiment is pretty questionable at this point. The bullpen has looked really solid, though. Burns has looked fairly impressive. Hader's obviously not given up an earned run yet. He's only pitched in a third of the game, so I question his utilization a little bit. But there is some signs of life, but they look like a team struggling to get to 500, and that's kind of where they are right now. But these last two Reds games showed some signs of positivity, and hopefully they can carry that momentum over whenever this series resumes. We just haven't been good at home, though, I think has been one of the biggest things. And obviously home field advantage isn't as big now without the fans, but it's really disappointing how poorly they've played at home, because historically that's not been the case for us.
Yeah, I mean, if they just pull 500 at home, until the Pittsburgh series, they had a pretty spectacular road record as far as averages go, but yeah, disappointing. Will, what are your thoughts in the last couple of weeks?
A very inconsistent team here. Basically, yeah, everybody's batting maybe just above 200 or below. Yelich has gotten up to 7 home runs now, but outside of that, he still is struggling. Pitching wise, actually, the rotation has been fairly good outside of Lindblom, rather. So basically, yeah, it's just been back and forth. We win a game, 12-7, and then we lose a game 2-1, and get swept by the Pirates. I mean, it's just a very inconsistent team, and there's really it just doesn't look good overall for basically going into the playoffs and stuff like that. So where I sit, I am very iffy on their chances at this point. I was very optimistic going into this 60-game season, but as time has gone on, I don't like what I'm seeing from basically the entire offense, and a few of the pitchers have not been fantastic either. So a couple of the pitchers like Burns Burns and Brett Anderson have been fairly decent, better than what I expected them to be. But at the same time, with the offense struggling, it's just been not a good situation for the team going forward. So that's basically all I got, is that things just are looking a little bit more on the downward side of things than up.
Well, let's look at a couple of positives so far in the last couple of weeks, I would say. Luis Urias coming back and being damn productive, I must say, out there. So he's looked well. Mark Mathias, very unsuspected turn for him so far. He's looked quite good. I think Burns and Hauser have been the solid starters out there. Woodruff is still solid, but he seems to hit a snag in the 4th, 5th, 6th innings the last few outings. He's getting a little, just kind of a little turned by these long at-bats. He's running across in the 3rd time through the order. The young guys, some bright spots. Narvaez seems to be finally getting some hits here in the last couple of games. Smoke starting to catch fire as well. So looks like they could turn some kind of a corner, but yeah, I don't know. It's strange to see this entire pretty much offense struggling all at the same time.
I think we got to give Fastball Freddy a little bit of love. He's been really good out of the bullpen, but I question kind of how him and Burns have been used a little bit, because maybe they should have been starting and we should have had other guys. Williams, that changeup is got to be one of the best in baseball at this point. I mean,
where did that come from?
Right? Yeah, I don't even.
We thought he was going to be one of the first guys cut when the season started.
I wasn't super positive on him, but that's the thing about him is now that he has that changeup and it's in people's minds. Without that pitch, he throws a lot of pitches. He gets a lot of strikeouts, which is good too, but it really works up his pitch count. But he's been super resilient. Not getting too flustered when he gets a guy on base or might not get a close call. Yeah, he's definitely been one of the most impressive for me. As far as the lineup goes, it's really hard to get excited about just about anybody on there besides, you said, Mathias. But some of the other guys that they've been shifting in and out from Appleton have looked okay out of the bullpen too. But I'd like to see Mathias playing a little bit more here. Peterson coming up, I'd like to see him get some more at bats here. There is some signs with Narvaez, but even after he had those several hits last couple games or whatever, he's still well under 200. His on base is okay. I think particularly that play where Gamble got the 9-2 put out with the bases loaded has to be the coolest play this season for me. Yeah. I just that one is awesome.
The umpire being the cherry on top of that one. Good stuff.
Yeah, what an interesting baseball play that was.
Yeah, that is 2020 for sure. What's the biggest positive you see here in the last couple of weeks, Will?
I will say the team as a whole has drawn a fair amount of walks, so that's been nice. I think a lot of people's on-base percentage is fairly high compared to their batting averages. A lot of the players have OBPs over 300. So that's a good sign, is taking the walks. We do have a lot of guys that tend to be swing and miss guys. So I think that's a good sign that they're taking some pitches and being a little patient. But overall, I haven't been impressed with the offense at all. Besides, I guess Urias has looked pretty darn good ever since he came back. But even now, his average is below 300 again. So maybe he's hitting a cold streak now. Maybe he just had a brief hot streak and that's not what he is. But I think he's got potential. As for the rest of the team, I haven't been impressed, unfortunately, with how inconsistent they've been. Pitching wise, Hader's looked very good. Devin Williams has looked fantastic. I'm very surprised by that. David Phelps has also looked very good and has kind of looked like a setup man. Knebel has looked absolutely awful, which I did not expect, honestly, going into the season. I thought he was going to be able to pick up basically where he left off, but unfortunately I was very wrong about that. So I don't understand why, with men on base, Counsell was looking to put Knebel into the game from time to time and kind of blew a couple games there. Forget exactly which exact games they were, but I do remember off the top of my head that happened. And so, that's, the positives. Devin Williams, David Phelps, Eric Yardley has looked very good too, which I'm surprised by as well. Otherwise, basically mostly what I expected and a very inconsistent offense.
Yeah, it was weird. Instead of what he had done after that, which was kind of using Burns and Peralta as piggybacks to the starters, early on he was doing that where he was almost bringing in a quote-unquote closer for the starter, and he was using Knebel in these situations where he was in big trouble before even walking out of the bullpen. So the usage there didn't make sense to me as well. All right, so Christian Yelich seems like he's come around. He's definitely come a lot further than he started, 1-28 or whatever that was, his 0.78 batting average that he had at one point. But he still, at least to me, doesn't look terribly comfortable out there. And you can almost toss Keston Hiura in there too, although his hitting's been a little more timely and more often. But Hiura, I was looking at some stats the other day, he has struck out 50% of his plate appearances this year, and that's really high. I don't think the Brewers ever expected Hiura to be in those waters for strikeouts. But you say the offense seems to be having issues across the league. But the two big guys here, the core of the team, Yelich and Hiura. Will, what are you concerned about these guys, or is this just a weird season and you're not too worried about it?
I'm kind of in the middle on that. I tend to lean towards being worried, not necessarily worried for the long term, worried for just the rest of the season. Neither of them have looked fairly fantastic, and the only good news for me with Yelich is that he has had basically a third of his hits have been home runs, so that's been a good thing. But outside of that, and his on-base percentage, drawing a fair amount of walks. Actually, I think he's drawn like over 15 walks if I'm correct. But so he's drawn a ton of walks and hit a lot of home runs. So that's the good side of him. But outside of that, he's also struck out way too much compared to what he usually does. And to me, it's not a good sign for the rest of this year. I don't think he's going to get back to the superstar self that he was the last couple of years. And maybe some of it's mental. Maybe it's because of the injury he had last year and whatnot. I'm kind of worried for the rest of this season. Not so much for the long term, but just this season. And then in terms of Keston, kind of the same thing. He struck out a lot as well. Still has taken a decent number of walks, but overall he just struck out way too much and has not hit. Well, he's still hit a few home runs, but basically about the same as Yelich. But he still has not looked the same as he did last year, and he's batting around 240 or so. So, yeah, definitely something to be concerned about. Just for this year, I think in the future they can be back to what they were last year.
Yeah, we just seem more concerned, overly concerned from a short sample size because the year is just so short. So yeah, no time to really work yourself out of these big slumps. Brock Holt got DFA'd about a week ago now. Definitely a move I did not see coming. I think he definitely didn't impress. He only got around 30 at bats, but not making much of an impact other than played pretty much the gambit of positions while he was here. So
I was pretty surprised about it, but I mean, we have to keep in mind that Knebel got shipped down too. This isn't a season where the teams can mess around and, as you said, let guys get out of the slump. And we look at Yelich and Hira. Yelich, I think, has 100 ABs, and Hira's at like 111. But I mean, that's usually a pretty legit sample size, and even a regular season in Major League Baseball at this time, and it's obviously not 400 ABs or whatever, but it gives you a pretty good idea of where someone's at. And I think Holt was under 100, and yeah, he only had 36 ABs, but we just it's really unfortunate we can't get these guys going. But we have Matthias at least. But I'd rather, I don't know, it's weird to see some guys get really long rope from Council as far as starting and playing time, and other guys like don't necessarily seem to get the same opportunity, and they might have the same performance, but they're given more playing time. And I think it really hurt Holt too that he didn't start with the team and he came up, because Matthias seems to be like the only offensive player I can think of off the top of my head that came up and has hit in both his stints actually. But that's got to be a tough situation with what they have going on there. I mean, they don't even have enough players to really field a full pickup game between them. So we will see. But with the roster too, and staying at the 28, it creates different situations, and we're bringing pitchers up and down. So that's affected the offense for sure.
Does anybody know, did anybody pick up Logan Morrison at all, or is he still in the great unknown? Yeah, I never saw any news. So, yeah, I would have thought somebody would have picked him up, but we'll see. I kind of feel the same way about Holt, but we'll see.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure nobody picked him up, if I'm not mistaken. He's just a free out there right now.
There's some good and the bad for sure. The playing at home is definitely one of my bigger concerns, but Pittsburgh, we just looked so bad, and this is obviously not much argument to say that they're the worst team in baseball, and they're a divisional opponent, so that you're going to get what you take. But the way we played so far, that was a big series to get swept in the division for sure. Having all these kind of interleague series early, I don't feel like totally gives a huge sample size for where we stand in the division. But we look back, we lost 2 or 3 to the Cubs, but then we took 2 or 3 to Pittsburgh, had that delay in with St. Louis, then we lost 2 or 3 to Cincinnati, then we won 3 out of 4 with the Cubs, but then we got swept by Pittsburgh, and then we won the first 2 games of this series. So I mean, if you take out some of the interleague stuff, at home, or not at home, but in the division, we've held our own. So that's a good thing to take. But we still have a lot of interleague games left still. Well, not a lot, but we got Detroit, and we got KC, and we got Cleveland still. So
yeah, I mean, we're in good shape there, except, I mean, Cleveland's tough, but we still, Detroit and Kansas City should be winnable games for the Brewers, but should be. So should Pittsburgh. So what do you do? Where do you see the Brewers' chances at this point? Short term, we got some winnable games here, minus the Cleveland series. But I mean, I think if they don't come out of this immediate stretch here, well, I mean, just in these specific games, well over 500, like win 10 of 17 or something at least, does not get any easier after this. So what do you see coming up here for the Brewers, Will?
Well, so far, in terms of teams over 500, we took to start the year. We lost 2 out of 3 to the Cubs, 2-2 against the White Sox, and then basically we started off bad or fairly average against above 500 teams, but then we kind of picked it up in the middle part. Took 3 of 4 with the Cubs, and I guess we beat the Reds here the last 2, although they're below 500, but for the most part, they looked fairly okay against teams above 500. What's worrisome is the fact that they obviously got swept by the Pirates, who are what looks to be the worst team in baseball, like Mike said, but I agree with that, and struggled to score. I mean, I think didn't score over 5 runs in that series, and had a 1 or 2 run game in that stretch. So even if we see Kansas City on the schedule and Detroit on the schedule, Detroit started off the year 7-5. So it's not like it's going to be any gimmies. I know they've struggled really bad lately. It's no gimmies with the Brewers, the fact that they are playing really bad teams. They tend to somewhat play to the competition of who they're playing. So like I wouldn't be surprised if Brewers took 2 of 3 from Cleveland and then lost 3 of 4 overall from Detroit or something like that. But you're right. We do have some games here where it's pretty bad teams and have a chance. So there is a chance at it. I don't like the inconsistency with the team so far this year, and it's making me think it's going to be about a 500 season. Will that be good enough to move on? I have no idea, but looks like my prediction originally around 32 to 34 wins. It's starting for me to be like around 27 to 31 wins at this point. Yeah, that's where I stand. Lots of winnable games coming up. A lot of Cardinals games, a ton of them, because of the double headers that we have to play. So, yeah, it's some optimism, but also a lot of pessimism at the same time.
Well said. To me, it almost comes down to the Cardinals, as we pretty much haven't played them, and now we have all those double headers and whatnot the rest of the year. I mean, we can look at the positives and the negatives. I mean, we haven't played that well interleague, but like I said, we did pretty well in the division. After we lost the series to the Cubs, we came back and beat them in a 4-game series, and after we beat Pittsburgh, then we lost to Pittsburgh. With Cincinnati, the series isn't done, but after losing 2 or 3, that when you take the first 2 of a 4-game series, that looks pretty promising. So I feel like they're holding their own in their division, but this 4-game series at home against Pittsburgh coming up could actually be the biggest series of the season, really. I mean, if they struggle against Pittsburgh, and then they could be dead in the water then. But if they do really well, I feel like they're okay. I don't know. I like the idea of playing all the interleague games, but before the season when they decided it was the 60 games. But when you look at it now, I almost would rather just stick to division play or sticking within the league. I don't know. I don't feel like it saved down the travel, or it made these games less risky. But at the end of the day, Brewers have played to about a team struggling to be 500. That's still where they are. The offense is pretty disappointed, but I feel like Pittsburgh and St. Louis is what the season's going to come down to, and how we do against them. So we've matched up pretty well against the Cubs, and we've held our own against Cincinnati too.
Yeah, I'm kind of mixed as well as I look at it. I do have optimism that they're trying to turn a corner here, and I think there's definitely potential for this team to catch fire, and we've seen it countless times at the end of the season. It's easier to get there, but it's pretty easy to fall out pretty quickly as well. So I'm still confident they can sneak in. I don't know that a 6, 7, or 8 seed in the playoffs is exactly going to do them much good at this point anyway. But, hey, I still think the bullpen is definitely as solid as it's been the last couple of years. Starting has, for the bumpy ride we've had, I can't say I have too many complaints about the starters. Yeah, Anderson is not a guy I ever would have picked up, so I'm glad he's working out. I'm glad Hauser is working out. And Burns, couldn't be happier for the guy. and hope he continues to get sharp. But yeah, I don't know. I'm a little optimistic at this point. More optimistic probably than you guys, but yeah, I could see it going either way. It could go really well. It could go extremely terrible. It could just be a lousy 500 too. So I guess the issues of the day here, guys. Before we get into the heavier stuff that's going on right now, let's just hit the COVID part real quickly. Cardinals ended up missing a ton of games. Lots of doubleheaders here. I'm still not sure how they get these all done, but we've had a couple of snags as well. Other games postponed. There was something in the Mets organization, but we've been lucky to not have any major outbreaks since the St. Louis Cardinals thing. So just from the COVID side of it, Mike, and now there's heavy talk, by the way, of a bubble system for the playoffs. I'm hearing Texas and California as two spots. So there's that lingering as well. But, Mike, do you feel any better about the pandemic end of the baseball season? You think they're handling it any better? Are you feeling any more optimistic as far as the COVID thing, that they're going to keep this thing going?
I'm a little more optimistic that they're going to at least at least we will complete all 60 games. Like you said about the Cardinals, there's some question marks there, whether I still don't see how they're going to make up all those games. And besides the COVID issue, if we want to talk about games being played, we literally have like a hurricane situation happening. And who knows what the weather impacts of that are. We've already had some games moved up in time or around because of that, but you can only make up so many games. But after the Marlins kind of fell behind, like they seemed to reset okay. I think a lot of players were crucified for their conduct early, and there's a lot of blame for that. But I mean, there's a lot of risk in traveling and everything still. I think the fact that the climate's been good and it's been summer and we're not into flu season makes the prospect of completing the season seem okay. And it seems like the pool of players or whatnot has actually sufficed for the most part throughout the league. I mean, the Marlins definitely had that great start and then kind of fell back and then are trending up again. But there's some guys that have gotten chances that were kind of written off and have risen to the occasion, so it's good for some of those guys. But I definitely don't feel much better. I feel good that they're going to finish the season, but the playoffs without a bubble makes it difficult. And a bubble with our normal amount of teams, I think is a lot less challenging than having 16 teams. But I mean, the whole plan MLB seem to have all season is let's try it until the wheels fall off, and hey, they've made it this far, so let's keep her moving.
Yeah, certainly two weeks ago it did not seem like we would still be playing at this point, if any of us would have predicted. Will, so COVID side, how are you feeling?
Yeah, so COVID related, actually the cases have been going down for the country as a whole. It seems like Florida is still struggling, and a couple other states, but as a whole, the country has been going down and is kind of stalemated again, around somewhere in the 30s every day, maybe close to 40. But originally, like a month ago, it was around 70,000 a day. So definitely getting better in that regard, and also the worldwide the death percentage is around 1%. So United States, apparently it's still around 5%, but it's steadily going down, probably because more younger people are getting infected. But I do think at this point they're going to be able to finish the season for that. But to me, I guess there's other issues that have come up that have kind of maybe put it on hold. But in terms of COVID, yeah, it looks like they're going to be able to get it finished. So I guess that's the good news. We'll just find out what else is going on with the rest of the craziness that's started.
Yeah, so the craziness you refer to, of course, we recently had another police shooting of a black person shot 7 times in the back in Kenosha. Jacob Blake did survive, likely to be paralyzed. So I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty of it. Everybody knows what happened. And everybody knows what happened with I don't even know his name right now, the white 17-year-old kid that shot multiple protesters, killing 2. That also happened. So today, the Bucks boycotted their Game 5 of their first-round series against the Orlando Magic, did not come out onto the court. That did prompt the NBA just to shut down for the day, at least. I've had some news come across since we started recording that definitely makes things more interesting here that I'll get to, but Brewers eventually following suit. Craig Counsell did make a statement early on 3 days ago. This killing happened on Sunday, or not killing, but the shooting happened on Sunday. Brewers did follow the Bucks lead and postpone the game today in solidarity to protest as well. Right now, it appears that there's a double header scheduled tomorrow. Again, this podcast will be out probably after that point. So right now, who knows what's going to happen. So, yeah, I think, Will, we were talking a little bit before we started recording. And that's what you were sort of referring to there when we were talking about the likelihood of baseball finishing, COVID-wise. You think this might throw a wrench into sports in general, Will?
I really kind of do, unfortunately. The Bucks started it. It obviously happened in Wisconsin, so it's close to home for all of us, which is very disturbing. The guy, obviously, I don't want to get too political here, but the guy obviously might have had some warrants and stuff, which is probably why he ran away. He got scared for his life. But it doesn't excuse shooting the guy 7 times in the back. At least that's my opinion. So that's basically all I'll say there. But yeah, I mean, it does to me throw a halt potentially in all of sports. The only sport today that wasn't halting play completely was the NHL, the hockey league. But otherwise, all of the NBA postponed, all of MLB pretty much postponed there. So definitely, it doesn't. I don't think it's great for the potential for the season finishing just because of that. Obviously, with all that's going on.
Yeah, MLS also 5 games scheduled today. WNBA as well postponed all stuff for today. So yeah, while we're recording, I got a notification that the players had a meeting in the bubble, the NBA players, most of them. And the Lakers and the Clippers teams both voted to just put an end to the season altogether. All the other teams did vote to continue. I don't really know what any of that means at this point.
So the Bucks were obviously voted for continuing the season?
Yeah, according to this article, yeah. All teams except the 2 LA teams voted to continue. The NBA Board of Governors apparently meets like at 8 a.m. Eastern Time tomorrow. So I guess we'll know more shortly after that. But, yeah, that does not sound good, guys. It doesn't. So, I don't know what that means. I don't know if those 2 teams just say we're leaving, or was this a whole league to vote? And if we vote to continue, do we all stay? I don't know the answer to any of those questions, but it does not sound good.
Well, I will add there, if 2 teams, especially 2 title contenders, vote to quit just quit the playoffs, if that were to happen, then I'm pretty sure the whole league would shut down.
Yeah, that's
but again, if I'm assuming that they take a majority vote, and if 28 out of 30 teams said let's continue playing, that they'll continue playing at some point. But yeah,
I saw some concern for the NBA, and we talked a little bit about this off air, and then when I saw that news story there, it really did get me a little more concerned about some of these sports that I guess we're taking for granted they're happening right now. The players or other people will take a stand. It's history repeating itself. We're not too long removed from George Floyd, and we're not too long removed from the Breonna Taylor. It keeps happening, and there's not accountability, and these instances are caught on camera. There's people witnessing it, and the public is crying for the DA or whoever is in charge with the police department to either fire the officers or charge them with the crime. And that's not happening. And people are responding, unfortunately, to the violence with violence. But I don't know that I can blame them. But these cities are continuing to receive damage from people that are traveling there to create trouble, and then angry people in the community. And the players have a powerful voice, and this incident is part of our community, as Will talked about, and saying stop shooting people in the back unarmed, and or just stop shooting people in the back. And let's not forget that there is a car full of children in this incident too, like this guy is, they're worried he's a threat, or they see this or that, but firing 7 rounds indiscriminately into a car full of children, like we're not even talking about that. I don't know. We have to be better. Craig Counsell made a statement on this right after it happened, and the Bucks and the NBA are definitely flexing about this. And if it's going to take a bunch of athletes or entertainers or musicians or whoever to create an inconvenience for other people, or other people to lose something that they care about, because the people in the Black community and other communities that are being affected by police violence and escalation tactics, and they're standing up. And I could see the NBA definitely ending the season. And it's not the 30 teams anymore, because it's the playoffs, and we're down to 16, and these series are about to end. And then you're talking about being down to 8, and then you're talking about 2 teams in one league with that. So then it really messes up that other bracket if something were to happen. And I think it's not coincidence that, at least from the report right now, that it's the 2 LA teams, because that's a community that's been very affected by police violence and protesting and rioting in the past too, for sure. So hopefully this sends a message to people that we just want accountability, and that just doesn't, I don't know, saying it and it keeps repeating itself. Hopefully that'll change.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got to do better, folks. We've got to do better. Well, guys, thanks for joining me here. We're going to try and get this back on the regular now, assuming we have Brewer stuff to talk about. In the next few days, I think we'll probably figure that out. I feel like baseball is going to keep moving for whatever reason. NBA, much more skeptical about. But I think the rest of them will probably forage on, at least until we have another incident, which could be any goddamn day at this point. So as long as there's baseball, we'll be here to talk about it on the Brewers Weekly Rundown. Give a call to or a text to our voicemail line with anything you have to say, thoughts on the Brewers, and anything indirectly related to the Brewers as well. 608-535-9302, at Brewers Weekly on Instagram and Twitter. BrewersRundown@gmail.com is the email. So drop us a line, and if you got a second, please go to where you get the podcast. Give us a lofty star rating and a quick little review. Help folks find the Brewers Weekly Rundown. My name, Eric, once again. You can find me on Twitter, Hazer75, or on any of the podcasts here on the Flicksation Podcast Network. Check them out. Mike, thanks for joining us. I wish it was under better circumstances, but that's 2020, man. Not good. Thanks, Mike.
At least it's been consistent every time we go to tape. It like invokes some new, bigger story later that day, or we get the ball rolling.
Thanks, Will, for joining us as well. Busy guy over there in D.C., but always good to have you on the show.
Of course, always willing to talk about my hometown sports teams there. So still rooting on the Brewers. Hopefully we get through everything.
Thanks, everybody. We'll catch you in a week or so. Thanks for listening to the Brewers Weekly Rundown. Have a good night and stay safe and well. Thanks, everybody, for listening to the Brewers Weekly Rundown. It is a 2020 production of the Flicksation Podcast Network. We will see you next time.